What's up guys, my name is Ace, and a couple days ago I made a video talking about the top 5 best guns to use in Black Ops 4 multiplayer, but of course that video was focused on core game modes. Within the comment section, I had a ton of people asking me to do the top 5 for hardcore game modes, so that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. Now before we get into the list, I just wanted to point out in hardcore, pretty much everything is good, or at least very usable. The gap between a good gun and a bad gun is much lower in hardcore than in core modes. And as a result, this list isn't going to be in any particular order. These are just sort of the top 5 guns that I feel are the best to use in hardcore modes. So first on my list here, we have the ICR. Now the ICR is pretty much perfect for hardcore modes. There's a couple downsides that I'll be mentioning here. But the nice thing about the ICR in hardcore is you get a one-shot kill out to 50 meters, which is going to be the vast majority of the gunfights you're in. Keeping in mind throughout this video, when I say one-shot kill, that's assuming the enemy doesn't have armor or have his health boosted by crash, and it also assumes you aren't shooting through cover. So yes, there are exceptions, but I've covered them there. Another big thing about the ICR that puts it in the top 5 is it's very accurate, so even if you're missing your first shot, it's not like the recoil is going to take you way off target, even across the map. It's got a pretty forgiving rate of fire, so again, if you miss the first shot or two, generally you still have time to land a shot if you're taking your enemy off guard, as you should be in this mode. And also, a very important one here, you have the ability to use the FMJ attachment, which completely negates armor. And this is something that's very important in hardcore modes because a lot of people will use armor, and if you're using FMJ, it completely ignores that, so then you will always get that one-shot kill between 0 and 50 meters with the ICR, unless you're shooting through heavy cover or unless the enemy has their health boosted by crash. So this gun is one of the better ones to use in hardcore modes, and it's very consistent, but the downside is its aim down sight and its sprint out time aren't really the greatest. As a result, you do rely on using Gung Ho as well as the quick draw attachment, and even with quick draw, you don't have like a super fast aim down sight time like the pistols in this mode. So those are the 2 key downsides with the ICR that you have to be aware of. Next up on my list for the top 5 guns to use in hardcore, this is the GKS. Now the GKS doesn't have the handling disadvantages of the ICR, so it's really snappy when it aims down sight. It's got a great sprint out time, and the hip fire is going to be better than the ICR, and it's pretty much just as forgiving with the rate of fire. Our standard one-shot kill potential is going to be 37.5 meters, which is still going to be the vast majority of your gunfights, especially if you're not actively trying to challenge people at longer ranges. And with this, we also have the ability to use the quick draw attachments to reduce our potential aim down sight time all the way down to 150 milliseconds, which is super fast, and you can be extremely snappy with this gun. You also get the movement speed of the SMGs, which is great, so a lot of benefits to using the GKS. However, there is a very big downside in hardcore, and that is there's no ability for you to use the FMJ attachment, and therefore, when you run into an armor user, it's always going to take you 2 shots to kill. Now, in a lot of cases, you can work around this, and if you're the better player, usually you can land the 2 shots before they land the 1 shot against you, but it's definitely something that does hold the GKS back a little bit within hardcore. Moving on to the next gun on the list, this is actually a tactical rifle, and this is the ABR-223. Now this one really does come down to personal preference. If you're the spray and pray type of player, you might not like this in hardcore modes because if you miss all of the shots in your burst, then you do have to wait till you get your next burst out, and oftentimes that's all the time the enemy needs to get the kill on you. You'll even see in the gameplay in the background, I miss a few of my first bursts, and it's not the most forgiving gun out there. But having said that, with the ABR-223, its standard one-shot kill range is infinite. So even though you're firing a 3-round burst, literally one of those bullets has to hit for you to get a kill on an enemy. Although we don't have access to FMJ on this, so against armor users, it will take 2 shots to kill. But then again, we have the upside of having a 3-round burst. In a lot of situations, you're able to land 2 out of those 3 bullets pretty consistently, and therefore armor isn't really a huge issue against the ABR. In addition to that, the ABR is pinpoint accurate across the map, so you've got no problem challenging people at extremely long ranges. And up close, you get the benefit with that burst that you can often just hip fire enemies up close, and odds are at least one of those 3 bullets are going to hit your enemy, and therefore it's really good at hip firing when you get in those close range situations. Combine that with the fact that you can use quick draw as well as stock to really help yourself out in the handling department. In the right hands, the ABR is an absolute beast in hardcore modes. This brings us to the fourth gun on my list, and this is the MX-9. Now, the MX-9 has a lot of the same benefits as the GKS. It's got that SMG handling and mobility, which is really nice to have, but it doesn't quite have the same one-shot kill potential as the GKS. Like I said earlier, the GKS has a 37.5 meter one-shot kill range, and the MX-9 has a 25 meter one-shot kill range. So, not quite as good, but still, if you're keeping yourself up close and personal, it's going to be a one-shot kill more often than not with the MX-9. The big difference between them, though, is the MX-9 does have access to the FMJ attachment, and therefore, within those 25 meters, when you're using FMJ, you are practically guaranteed to get one-shot kills, whereas with the GKS, you're kind of left guessing because if they have armor, it'll take you 2 shots to kill. So you do sacrifice a little bit of that one-shot kill potential with the MX-9, but in exchange for that, you get really consistent one-shot kills within that one-shot kill range. As a result, I'm often torn between the MX-9 and the GKS within the SMG department for hardcore, and I use them pretty much interchangeably. But finally, this leaves the last gun on the list, and this is quite possibly the best gun, or at least in the right hands, it's possibly the best gun to use in hardcore game modes. This is actually a pistol, and it is the STRIFE. Now with the STRIFE, we get a 37.5 meter one-shot kill range, which is the same as the GKS, and like I said, as long as you're not actively trying to challenge people at really long ranges, pretty much all of your gunfights should fall within this one-shot kill range. But in addition to that, we do have access to the FMJ attachment, so armor isn't going to be a problem. We'll have very consistent one-shot kills within 37.5 meters. Also, this is a pistol, so it has extremely good handling. Very, very fast sprint out time, very fast aim down sight time. So you'll be able to snap onto people almost instantly, far faster than anybody with an assault rifle, for instance. It's also pinpoint accurate. As a semi-auto, it doesn't really kick too much, and it usually recenters pretty much perfectly between each shot, even if you're hitting the maximum fire rate. And therefore, really the only downsides to the STRIFE is going to be, first off, it is a semi-auto, and therefore, if you don't have a good trigger finger or you're not confident aiming with a semi-auto, you might run into some problems with this. And the magazine capacity isn't that great. But, of course, you do have access to the extended mag attachment if you want to improve that a little bit. And as long as you're planning out your reloads, you shouldn't have too much of an issue with that smaller magazine. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for my list of the top 5 best guns to use in Black Ops 4 multiplayer for hardcore game modes. Of course, though, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what are your top 5 guns to use in hardcore? Do you agree with my list? Are there any that you disagree with and would like to see swapped out with a different gun? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.